to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. I have another game changer show for you guys today, meaning if this show and the message that my guest, Monique Holmes, shares with you today doesn't make you rethink how you approach sourcing for your interior design firm, well, I'll be very, very surprised. My guest is Monique Holmes, and she has worked in the corporate world for over 10 years in the marketing and advertising industry, helping multi-million-dollar brands market and launch their products and services. And she was great at it. But one day she decided that she was put on this earth to do more. She wanted to serve others. So in 2012, Monique started Duarte Decor, a global interior decorating firm, helping people transform their lives through interior design. And by using her marketing experience, she built a business that generated $50,000 in profit in her first year working at it part-time while still maintaining her full-time job. Pretty soon, Monique's colleagues would be saying to her, how do you market your interior design business? So she, just like all of us, know that there is a huge gap in our industry, that design schools don't have the time to teach the business side of the industry. So in 2016, Duarte Consulting was born. Monique devised her 8 Steps to Profitability Program and launched her private coaching firm. And today, Monique shares with us her key strategies for sourcing like a pro. As I said, this is a good episode with tons of info. Stay tuned for my summary at the end because Monique has a nice resource that she generously shares with us. A big thanks to my sponsor, MyDoma Studio. You must know by now that MyDoma Studio is your go-to resource for project management as well as the place for client and vendor engagement, saving you time, money, and energy. And just like Monique encourages you today to build your repertoire of products, keep in mind, when you find these products, you can clip and save them in your MyDoma Studio, right? And then that will save you even more time and helping you feel just like the confident, capable professional that you are. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business. And if you're going to High Point Market next week, fall 2018, join me on Monday, October 15th at 3 o'clock p.m. at Commerce and Design 1C First Floor, where I will be interviewing 5 interior designers who are all using the MyDoma Studio platform. I'm going to pick apart exactly what features each of them use, how it helps them with time and money, and why they love it. If you have any lingering questions about the efficiency of MyDoma Studio and whether it's right for you and your interior design firm, join us in High Point. The info is on my website at luannigara.com and click on the live events page. All right, now let me introduce you to Monique Holmes. Hi, Monique. Thanks so much for joining me again on A Well-Designed Business.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So you were originally on the show, episode 178, and we talked about the 8 key steps to running a profitable interior design business. You're back on the show today. We have some other changes other than what we're talking about. You have become a married woman, so you're not. So when people look at the original show, it's going to say Monique Duarte, and this one is going to say Monique Holmes, and you're having a baby very soon.
Yes.
So actually, by the time this show airs, you will have had your little baby girl. So
yes, due next week.
That's
so I'm
it.
really excited. A lot has changed. A lot has happened.
Exactly.
But all good things.
Exactly. One thing is that you moved out of the dirty Jersey. I mean, come
Yeah.
on. People don't
I
leave
know.
Jersey. What are you doing?
I know. I miss it sometimes. And, Jersey did me very well. I spent a lot of time there and built my business there. And, I know you guys are there. Like it was awesome. But, life happens and life changes. And
it was good moving to Virginia, right?
It was,
reconnected and met your high school sweetheart. And
yes. A whole new chapter.
Exactly. So. Although I have to say, usually when we get people to Jersey, we don't let them go.
Yes. I'll be visiting back. So I have so many friends in the interior design industry, and it's been great what I built there. So I definitely, it's still my second home, and I'll definitely probably be visiting again soon.
Yeah, that's it. So today on the show, I mean, I've said it in the introduction, you're a business coach for interior designers, and you have multiple topics that we could talk about, but I selected of your topics, sourcing and selling like a pro. And I thought that what happened was that I liked the idea of the topic. And then when I started talking to you about how you actually explain it, I am very impressed at the very clear cut, direct approach and the way you pick it apart. And I thought it would be extremely valuable. And I do not feel that we have really covered it in the way that you're about to cover it on the show for us. So yay you, okay? Good. So I'm not even going to putz around with it. You get us started because you just have such a direct way of teaching it, and I love it. So what's the first thing that we want to think about as interior designers in order to source and sell products like a pro?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I like to focus on is helping designers figure out strategies to do things effectively and efficiently. And so when you think about sourcing, I put together kind of like these 4 pillars or these 4 key strategies for sourcing like a pro. And the first one is, understanding what I like to call the rules to sourcing. So what does that mean? Basically, how do you actually source effectively, right? Because especially if you're a new designer or maybe you've been in the game for a long time, it's important to figure out what's the best sourcing model for your business. And every business is different, right? So there's a couple things, though, that are just kind of like, the holy grail. And one of the things are, first, that you always want to think about sourcing through trade-only vendors. So these are, furniture manufacturers, accessory manufacturers that you're going to meet and see at High Point if you've never been. Make sure you get there and get with another designer and, maybe team up and go. But, sourcing through those vendors that only sell to the trade. We've, built a legacy industry for many, many years with trade providers that, truly do want to support us and support interior designers. So that should be like your first go-to. Okay. And the reason why is because, one, the quality of furniture is much better than a lot of the other retailers that mass produce products. There's so many more customization options that you can choose from. And then the other thing is that it's a way for you to build your business and also make more money in your business because you usually typically get a nice discount on furniture and accessories that normally you wouldn't if you went through a retailer. So there's a lot of advantages of going through a trade-only vendor. Now, the second option, what I like to call the second tier that you might want to look into sourcing through is what I call like a third-party company. So some of them that you may have heard of are companies like Company D, Habitattery, or Design Finder, just to name a few. And what they do is they actually go out and they do all the work for you. They go and they partner with trade-only vendors and they say, okay, we're going to get your pricing And then you sign up with them as a member. And you have access to all of their trade only vendors. And they're usually the typical ones that you would normally have to build relationships with on your own and set up your own accounts. But what's nice about these third party companies is that they can provide you with instant pricing quickly. They also usually don't have minimum order requirements, which is usually a big challenge for new designers who are up and coming, because you haven't really, done a lot of projects. You haven't really ordered a lot of product yet. So that kind of waives that. So you don't have to worry about the minimum order requirements. And it just kind of makes it easier because it allows you to, learn what trade vendors are out there and really understand, how it all works until you start to build your own relationships and accounts. So that's a good option.
Let me ask you a question there. Would that be like Designer Inc. falls into that category as well? Okay.
Yes.
So so I understand the concept. Okay.
Yeah.
And the advantages of working with these companies is that like you said, no minimums. They're right there. You're not starting with a Google search on trade sources, right? I imagine each of them potentially could have a different model, but are you paying more money when you work through a source like this, or is the vendor paying the Designer Inc. or the Habitattery or something? Do you know that, or that's like, Luann, that doesn't matter right now. Stop talking about that.
No. That's a great question. That's a great question because, as a business owner, right, you have to look at all your costs.
Right.
So if this is something that's going to be an extra cost to you, that's a great question. So how it works is these companies, these third-party companies, they go out and they partner with all the trade vendors. And what they do is they build kind of their own repertoire. Right. And then they basically resell it to you, but they resell it in a membership format. So basically it might be like, let's just say $30 a month to have access to their full vendor list. And you can order from any of those vendors. And it also saves you a lot of time and money. It can if you use it, because what they also do is they handle all of your shipping and ordering. So you'll be able to go on their website, see all the trade companies up there on their list and say, okay, I need to order, from CR Lane this month. You pick out your furniture, they get you pricing. They actually do the ordering for you. They can actually do the shipping, handle all the shipping for you. And basically everything is done for you. So,
there has to be a fee in that for there. Right?
Yeah. So usually it's a monthly fee that you as a designer will pay the third party company.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then we also have Heather McManus, who was recently on the show, number 357, and she has started Collaborate to Win, which is sounds like a version of that, but much more intimate, personal, and I don't even need to say intimate and personal, but it's more collaborative as opposed to a pay-to-play type of a thing. So I would just encourage you to go back and listen to 357 and that recent show, because there's something in the connection to this that Monique is talking about that might be a possibility. Okay, so the first thing is, I just want to kind of recap a little. The first thing is that you want to encourage all designers to really start out with trade-only sources. And I have to say, Dina Holland from Honey and Fits was on the show, number 354, and it was one of the things that she said was a game changer for her business. Dina was very open with us on the show. And she said that she is not a designer that came from design school, that she was a blogger that started blogging, and people started saying, can you make my home look like your home? And the next thing you know, she was a designer, but she's smart. She's a smart business lady. And that's really what usually is the catalyst for being successful. And she said, you must use trade sources. You must do that. You must make money on markup. And she said the same thing, get your little fanny to High Point, right?
Yeah. Great advice. Yeah. That was the first thing that I did. And I remember I was working with my mentor, and, when you're first starting, you're like, okay, what do I do? Right. And I remember my mentor telling me, you need to get to High Point. And he actually invited me to go with him and two other designers. And he was like, I'm going to show you how to do this. And he said, bring comfortable shoes. He gave me a packet of the previous year's kind of like their, the promo book that they send out. And he said, look and start researching some of the trade vendors that you want to see, because it's a lot. Like there's floors and floors and floors of furniture companies. And so, I went, and it was like I was a kid in the candy store. But I remember coming home and coming back to my office and like literally mapping out and saying, okay, I want to set up an account with this vendor. This vendor I think would be great for my client. And I started to build my repertoire. And that was the best thing that, I could have ever done to really help build my business and really build my product base.
Yeah, I have to say, I have had more than a few designers recommend to do it the way you just expressed, to not just show up at High Point. And to just okay, let me try it and let me walk around it, because you'll just walk around in circles. You won't understand where to go, how to go. The High Point tours, the different, Deb Barrett runs a High Point tour. Gary Inman runs a High Point tour. The different designers that run the tours, I think, are a great way if you don't have a mentor like you did that can help you with the ropes, because otherwise you will spend your wheels not getting focused on the tier of the furniture locations that you should be going into, right?
Yeah,
and like you said, because you want to develop a repertoire that relates to your client base, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. So I wanted to just, kind of cover those. So develop and open trade resources. The option is to go direct or third party. And then go ahead. I cut you off. Where are we now?
No, that's fine. Yeah. So then the third one, the last one, is to go through online retail stores. But here's the key. You don't want to just go to, shop with any online retailer. You want to pick the retailers that have trade programs for designers, because you can still, with those programs, they still will give you some type of discount, and you can get something off so that you can actually make some sort of markup.
Okay.
So there's plenty of them out there, there's, Wayfair, Jocelyn Main, there's so many out there that have programs, and then you can, sign up for them and make sure that you're getting your designer discount. Now,
okay. And I just have to say, we have to talk about article.com. I mean, let's be serious.
Yes.
Sponsor of the show. And article.com does have a trade program. And I say it all the time. What I love about the article.com trade program is that the customer service and the program there that is to the trade is handled by interior designers. And I think that's very important, because they speak your language and they understand what it's like when you call up and you say, I have to put furniture in a space by XYZ date. You're not talking with a customer service rep that says, how could furniture be an emergency? Only designers know that furniture could be an emergency, right?
Right.
So article.com is an example of an online retailer that you would recommend, because they do have the trade facing program. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's important. And you're seeing a lot of retailers pop up and, offer trade programs, because they understand that, we have a lot of buying power, and, they want our business. And that's important for us to know as well, because that means that you can hand select the companies that you want to work with and you want to buy from. So, it's great. I shop Wayfair, I do for some of my e-design projects, some of the smaller projects where clients want really quick turnaround times. And that's usually a good gauge of when to go to buy via retailers, because, obviously you can turn around product really quickly for your clients. So that's typically when I use them. But
we also have to understand the level of the client that we're dealing with too. I think that goes without saying, right?
Absolutely.
So no matter how quickly something like Wayfair could get something, there's going to be some clients that's not the product for them, right?
Absolutely.
Right, okay.
Absolutely. And I think it's important. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think it's really important to be transparent with your clients. One of the things that I always do during my consultation is I talk with my clients and I tell them, this is how I work and here's your options. If I provide you with full service interior design, I typically will only shop via trade only vendors. And that's because, you might want something custom, and I'm going to have to go trade, and also just the project management side of it that's required for a full service project. And then what I also tell them is that if you want to, do an e-design project with me and you want quick turnaround times and you need your home transformed in, 3 weeks, right, with furniture delivered and everything, that's probably not going to be possible if I go through trade only vendors, because an average sofa might take at least, 6 to 8 weeks to be designed, created, and shipped to you. So I let them know what the expectations are and what they can expect and what their options are. And then I leave it up to them to say, okay, how do you want to work? Do you want to go the e-design route and we can do things very quickly and beautifully? Or do you want to, really take your time? Do you want trade only? Do you want customization? And, I let them know what comes with that.
So let me ask you a question about that. Will you only do that quick turnaround with the retail places for e-design? So if you're doing design somebody in real life, then that is a full service client only, Monique, or will you sometimes do it even for a local client?
Yeah, the majority, well, let me just define e-design. So e-design, I also offer to local clients, right? I think the difference in if I do e-design or I do a full service project is, one, the budget of the client. Okay. Because e-design, I, typically don't charge as much for full service because it doesn't require me to do as much work. Now, the other thing is how quickly they want their project turned around, right? Again, going back to the, availability and all of that. So those are the two questions usually that I really ask up front, depending on what they need. And then I'll make a recommendation and say, well, I think probably my e-design service is probably going to be best suited for what you need versus full service.
Right.
And then there's some clients who like to do things on their own. You get some DIYers that, they're like, I just need your design vision. I need you to put it together, to show me, what my space is going to look like, propose the furniture, and then I can take the rest, from there.
Right.
And so those clients, I'll recommend e-design. So you really have to, that's why the consultation is so important, because you have to understand the needs of your client. And then I think what's important with online retail purchasing is, the other thing is, it doesn't require as much time because I actually provide them with the shopping list, and then they do all of the ordering and purchasing on their own.
I like that.
And that's very important because when you're shopping retail, one, the time that it takes you to source the item
and then out and cart and blah, blah, blah. And it came with a screw missing and it's like
there's so many other things that you can't control and that can happen and that will take and suck up your time that you're not getting paid for.
Right.
So you want to really look at what your business model is for if you're offering e-design services. And for me, like I said, I provide them with the shopping list and I let them know it's your responsibility to purchase the items, to manage all of the shipping and delivery and installation. And if you would like, my clients sometimes hire me for installation once all the boxes get there.
Okay.
And they've unpacked everything. My team will come in and we'll install, the furniture and decorate the home. But you really have to really map that out and figure out how you're going to do that. But that third one is purchasing through online, online or any, your box retail stores.
So now there's a distinction there, though, because on one hand, we're talking about so it sounds like there's some situations where you're going to use online furniture stores like article.com through their trade account, in which case you are going to place the order and they're going to ship and deliver right to the client. So whether or not you meet the delivery or you go and open up the boxes. But the point is that if it's being ordered through the trade part of an online retailer, you're placing the order. So there must be some situations where one situation calls for, here's your shopping list, and one situation calls for, maybe, are you talking about when you are doing full design, it might be a mix of the trade and the retail sources? Okay.
Yes, yes, that's a great point. So I can give you a perfect example. I'm just finishing up a coastal home design project now, and we're doing her whole house. Now, she decided, because she wanted to phase it out, that we ended up doing e-design for her bedroom and then full service for all of the other rooms. Now, the living room and the dining room, most of the items she wanted custom. So most of them I shopped via trade-only vendors. Right. And it was okay because she phased it out and she knew that, okay, the living room and the dining room will take a little bit more time. Right. But she wanted to get her bedroom done and done with. So we did e-design because that was quick. Okay. So I shopped all retail, gave her shopping list for her bedroom. She purchased all her items and installed the furniture herself. Okay. The living room and dining room, which we're wrapping up now, is a mix. To your point. Okay. So most of it is trade product, but some of the items are like accessories and paintings and things like that. I think maybe we have some end tables that I shopped via retail. But here's the thing. The retail stores that I shopped through, I have trade programs with, or a trade account with. So I'm still getting some type of discount, right? That I'm able to keep for my business, as well as pass on a portion of the discount, which is what I typically do. So let's just say it's 30% or 20% off that I got off. I'll give the client 10% off and then I'll keep 20, right? Okay. That's still cheaper than if she would have bought it directly through that retail store, right? So in this case, to your point, there was a mix. But what I do is I'm very transparent, because obviously clients can go online and she can, find the same product that I found. But she's going to find it at the retail price. So to her, it's still a benefit, right? Okay. So you can definitely mix it up. You just have to really be aware of the price points. And like I said, making sure that you are working with those retailers that do offer designer programs.
Now, this is not our topic, but because I know every single designer listening is going to want me to ask this question. So when you are doing that mix and you have that particular room, and maybe the sofa was ordered through a trade source, and you say your discount is what, 50% off of the retail? Okay. So what percentage?
Usually it can be up to 50%.
Okay. So walk me through that. What percentage are you sharing with the client on, say, something that's 50%, for example?
Yeah, usually I use like a 60-40 rule, right? So, let's just say if it's 50%, I'm probably going to keep 30. Okay. And then maybe give my client 20. Okay. But that's complete. There's no rule, because that really depends on your volume and what you're comfortable with, what you're comfortable with charging and what you're comfortable with
Understood.
keeping.
I was just curious how you do it. Okay. So taking that down the road. So you have a mix of trade and retail. So maybe on a retail item, you're getting 15%, you're going to give her 5, you're going to take 10. Right. Are you also before that point, you have charged a design fee, or are you charging by the hour to source that? Where else are you making money on that?
Yes, great question. So what I typically do is I charge hourly. So I charge a block of 10 hours to get started at my hourly rate. And then after that, they have to purchase blocks of 10 hours at a time to keep the project going. Okay. So that, there's a lump sum they pay to get started. And then as we go, and that includes sourcing all the way down to, managing the shipping and delivery. And then I charge a separate fee for installation.
Okay. So I like that. I mean, so you're getting paid to sit there on the computer and find the source, whether it's trader or retail, and then your discounts are in there. Okay. I'm not going to start with the splitting of the discounts, because that makes me crazy and I get angry when I hear about it. So we're going to just move along right now. Okay. So, so those are the first 3 things in the rule to sourcing, that we have to establish our trade account. We can think about doing them through third-party places, and then the online retail stores. It's important to have places that have the trade side of it. What comes next?
Yeah, so great. The next thing is that what I like to call, you want to think about considerations or things to know. So when you're looking at all of these different options or ways you can source, you want to think about and ask the companies that you're working with, things like, do they have a quick ship program? Right. This comes really in handy, or comes in handy when, you have a project or a client that wants a custom sofa, but they don't want to wait 8 to 12 weeks. Right. They need it in 4 weeks.
Right.
But they want custom. They don't want a retail product. So, you want to make sure that you have in your repertoire trade vendors that can deliver on that. There are several that do, provide that service,
well,
and
like
you just kind of do your research.
I mean,
Yep.
let's be serious. Kravet.
Yeah.
You're just walking right into all of my sponsors here. and Kravet Inc. does have the quick ship on custom, where you can turn around and get it in like a week or something like that. Of course, I'm not going to remember on the top of my head, but it's a quick ship guaranteed in stock for X amount of items and X amount of SKUs for even furniture, sofas, everything. So
exactly.
Okay. So that's a good point, that you would look at normally a big trade source like Kravet and only possibly think that this is that custom made, 6 to 8 week delivery, whatever it is. But some of these higher end, trade sources do have the quick ship like Kravet does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And you need to know what those frames are and what those fabrics are, because that's what you want to, that's what you're saying, to know ahead of time that if you have a client who really does want custom and really does have the budget for a better quality piece of furniture, but that also has the timeline consideration, maybe you have your Kravet quick ship guaranteed in stock fabric books right at your studio, and you're like, okay, we're picking from these fabrics and these 4 frames and yada, yada.
Exactly.
Love it.
And you said something that was really key, and it's knowing this information beforehand. Because what happens is, if you don't know this information and you go into a project and you get the download from your client, right, of what they need, and then you have to go back and spend hours figuring all this out, you've just burned through hours, right? And you've just basically worked for free. And that's what I wouldn't say a lot, but sometimes that can be a challenge for designers, because that's the way you work. And that's a whole nother conversation about process. But
you know what? There's something in there that you're saying. There's something in there you're saying, because you're saying if you're learning as you go, basically is what you're saying, is in the context of working on that project. If you spend 5 hours to find the quick ship source, right, that's still trade, because you didn't know about Kravet, you didn't listen to Luann, and you didn't already know it, right?
Right.
But you're going to, in conscience, you're not going to charge your client for 5 hours, because there it was on the clear as a nose on your face, and you just didn't know it. But so you're saying you end up working for free. But what I want to say is, it sounds like to me that the premise of everything that you're describing here, Monique, is at some level we are going to do this for free, but we do it for free on our time as preparation, right? In other words, that's what I'm hearing as your message. And I hadn't started to kind of summarize that yet, because I was waiting until the end, but that was what I was getting. And this is a good spot to say it. It's, in other words, what you're saying is, you know what? Block out maybe 1 or 2 hours out of your studio time a week and say, okay, today I'm going to source my quick ship trade program, right? And so you're not doing it in the middle of the project, but you're amassing, it's almost like reading up on a subject, right? Okay, good. I want to just make that clear, because we are doing it for free at that point, but it's an investment in our company, and it's not detracting from our actual working time within a project.
Right, exactly. Because at the end of the day, that's why the client has hired you, because you're the expert. Right. So you have to be the expert in your products. And this is work that, you have to invest time in, like you said, in your business, so that you know what you have access to. Right, before the project comes out.
This is very smart, Monique. This is very smart, because we talk about taking time and scheduling time to work on our business, not just in our business. But when we think about that and we talk about that, often we relate it to devising a marketing strategy or devising a brand look or devising, sitting with our bookkeeper and learning how to analyze our profit and loss. But we haven't talked about how a very real part of that is to gather and do our homework on this selling and sourcing process so that when we're in the middle of a project, we sit down and we work.
Right. Exactly. And it's so much less, it's so much more stress free, right?
Yes.
Because you're not trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to find this product, right? You're focused on the creative process, which is what we like to do. We like to be able to, get in that creative mindset and really have fun designing someone's home. And that's where you should be spending most of your time. So yes, preparation is important.
Yeah, that's, what it is? It's like, if you were an athlete, you just don't show up on game day. Right? You're in the batting cage week after week, hitting 9,000 balls. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's what that is. It's to look at scheduling some time to actually, I love this.
Yeah.
This is so smart. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to go through really quickly a few more.
Go ahead.
Things to know. So the minimum orders, we said the quick ship programs, if they have minimum order requirements, do they sell via third party or strictly trade only? And this one is really key, especially because of the way, just our industry is changing. I mean, you see all the time, there's vendors out there like, Stanley Furniture and, just so many that are popping up now on online retail stores. And they're selling their products. And so you have to know which companies out there are doing that, because you have to know what the price points are. You need to know if you're going to, propose a piece of furniture that you think is only trade only, and actually it's being sold on Wayfair for, cheaper or maybe a comparable price. It's our job to know that, because the last thing you want to do is propose a piece of furniture and your price is higher than what the client can get it on Wayfair.
Okay. And so, yeah, definitely. So the idea is to know ahead of time. So in the moment, if you haven't gotten all your research done, you could at least in the moment Google it before you present. But the idea again is to do it ahead of time and have your list of who does this and who does that. And what is your thing? So if we find that somebody is supposedly trade, but they're selling it retail for less than our trade discount, do we just say next out of the lane, we don't work with them?
No,
we don't.
I don't think you have to
I'm
X
like
them
next
out.
out of the lane.
No, it's just you have to be smart about it, because there are some really great trade vendors, I should say. I won't say trade only, but trade vendors that are now selling, retail because they need more business, they need more volume.
So how do you make money on that?
Decision. Right. So that's the decision that they make. But here's how you have to be smart about it.
Okay.
You have to then do your research and go on and say, okay, how much are they selling this sofa for? For example, and you have to understand, is this a sofa that I can make money on? Is this something, or is their price point, so much cheaper on this retail, online store that it doesn't even make sense for me to sell that product.
Right.
So, it's just, and you have the power to make that decision, but, first you have to just be aware of it.
Okay. So where I'm like nixing that whole category, that whole company off, hand, what you're saying is because a particular company might be doing that, they're not necessarily doing it with their entire line. Is that
correct?
That
is correct.
So
this
XYZ company might be a trade company, and but they might have 4 SKUs from a sofa line that they're offering retail, but there's 5 SKUs that are strictly trade.
Yes.
Okay.
And a lot of times what happens is actually they sell it at a higher price. Like I had this project that I mentioned earlier. I had proposed a dining table from a trade vendor who now sells online, and they sell via Wayfair. And when I was looking, just researching it, I found the same table. And at first I thought it was one of their exclusive products, but they were selling it on Wayfair. And actually it was like, I want to say maybe about almost double the price.
Oh,
It's probably about $400 or $500 more on Wayfair. So
that's
just
unusual.
yeah, but just me knowing, what the price point was I was able to make sure that I set the right price point for my client, right? So it wasn't higher than what they were selling it for, and it wasn't like super low. Because ironically, when my client sent me her Pinterest boards of things that she liked, guess what was on that Pinterest board?
That same table.
That table.
Whoa.
So that's what I mean by being aware, because your clients are savvy and they
Right.
are shopping, and some of the things they like might pop up that you're proposing to them. So it's just being aware and knowing so that you don't have to have that difficult conversation with your client of, okay, well, why did I find the same table and your price is higher than theirs? Right.
That makes my stomach hurt just hearing it. It does. It just makes my stomach hurt. I just hate it. It's just like, look, lady, if it was so easy to find, why didn't you just go find it? That's what I want to say. Like, honestly.
Yeah. I know.
And by the way, so she found the table on her own originally. She found it on Pinterest, but that didn't mean she knew what to put with it or what size to get or what kind of chair to go with it. Like, it's just like, come on.
Yeah, exactly. And luckily, she wasn't that type of client. Like, she didn't mention it to me.
Right.
But
right.
I saw it, right?
Yes.
And I noticed it. So, again, it's just making sure that you don't have to put yourself in that situation. And really it just comes down to knowing your product.
Right.
It's just like if someone shops at Walmart and then or Home Depot and then they go to Lowe's, right? Lowe's and Home Depot, they know what their prices are. They know that they're competitive, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, the client can make the decision who they want to purchase from. As long as you're transparent, that's what's important.
Okay. Good.
So,
all righty.
Yeah. So, okay, good. So we're almost finished. So the next one is price points. So, are they, do they have lower price points? Are they a medium or are they high end? Right. I remember when I went to High Point for the first time, again, my mentor told me, you need to have a scale of vendors that you work with, vendors that have, are high end, vendors that are medium, vendors that are low, a low price point, so that you have a full repertoire of options. If you don't know and you just go into, any trade vendor store and you're not really sure and you're not doing your research, you could be proposing a sofa to a client, that's $15,000 and they're like, okay, my budget's only $2,000. Right. And so you've just wasted your time and their time. So really understanding what their price points are important. Also, what products do they specialize in?
Oh, one other thing I just want to say about price points. And the fact is that for the most part, probably 85% of the interior designers, and I'm just going to call it 85, and for all I know, it's 100%, that actually are well served by having products in all price points, low, medium, and high, because even the luxury client that is going to do XYZ in their master bedroom or their living room and dining room really is not necessarily going to take that high price point all the way through to guest bedrooms and nannies' bedrooms and yada, yada.
Right.
So, exactly, right? So
yes, correct.
Everybody really should be educated in low, medium, and high.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you want to have that mix. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the main important thing is to know, which company offers what and what their price point is.
And you still want to, even if you're looking at 6 companies that are all low price point, there's going to be, like you said above, the questions that you have to ask each of them. What is your policy for return? What is your policy for shipping and all of that stuff? Because even though their price point might be the same, their customer service level might be very different. And so that's also what you want to know. Who are the people that are good business people, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that goes back to just building that relationship, and just doing the groundwork and, going into these showrooms and, finding out who the rep is in your area and building a relationship so that when you have questions, you have somebody to go to and, you can make the decision on who you want to work with. So yeah, it's a great point.
Right. Love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So we got 3 more and then, we will wrap this section up. So the other 3 are, what products do they specialize in? So what do they offer, right? And this really just goes back to, again, when you're doing your consultation, you should be thinking in your mind, okay, what vendors am I going to source through? based on what the client's preferences are and what they're telling you. So just knowing what options you have and, what they offer, I think is important, and just knowing your product lines. And then also the return policy, we talked a little bit about that. So the warranty policy, what's their policies and what do they offer? And then the last one is, where are they located in rep support, if they have rep support that's available.
Good point.
I've run into a lot of issues. I won't say the vendor's name, but there was a case where I really love the product that this vendor offered. And so I'm not going to say the name because it is a very well-known vendor. But in my area, and this was actually when I was back in New Jersey, unfortunately, they didn't have a rep. The rep that they had was someone who was who actually worked in a retail store. I think I want to say it was Raymore and Flanagan. It was some retail store, and it was weird. I guess they just didn't have representation in my area. And so I had to go into this retail furniture store, and this guy was like the worst. I mean, it was just the worst experience. I couldn't check out samples. Like, it was just a nightmare. And, I wanted to buy product from them, but I was like, I refuse to work with this guy. And so, to me, I realized that that's really important, having representative support, so that if you have questions, if you need samples, if you need swatches, those things are important, because if you're showing a product to a client, you have to, you got to have samples, you have to have swatches, right? You need that stuff quickly, right? So, long and short, I ended up purchasing through another vendor,
right? Just
because of the experience was horrible. So those are things you want to know, and you want to know who your rep is, and you want to be able to have your rep on speed dial if you need them.
I agree.
So,
my reps know they better. I mean, it's the truth. I mean, the thing about it is the reps, I always say to them, if I don't need you, I don't need you. And I might not need you for 5 years in a row, but when I need you, I need you. It's like, what's the point of you if you're not responsive when I need you? Because just showing up every couple of months and saying hi is great, and I require them to do that. I absolutely do require my road reps to show up at Window Works every 3 months, 4 times a year. And if they don't, I won't give them business. Because, they're called sales reps. That means they have to engage in a relationship with me, make sure my products and my books are up to date, and that I don't have discontinues laying around. I mean, oh my goodness, isn't that the worst, right?
Right.
Yeah.
You don't know pricing, and it takes them, a week or two to get back to you on pricing, and you've got a client sitting there waiting for your proposal.
No. I say to them all the time, I said, you see me, right? I sell for a living too. So if I go out to see Mrs. Smith on Monday and I don't answer her phone call for 10 days, do you think I'm getting that sale? Well, think of me as Mrs. Smith. If I call you Monday and you don't call me back, you're not getting a sale.
On to the next. Right. We live in such a popcorn society that, like, people want things quickly. They don't want to wait. So,
well, I just find that sometimes the mistake that a non-productive, a sales rep that is a product rep that is not committed to excellence is a rep that mistakes the fact that they think it's a sure thing. You know what I'm saying? And there is no sure thing. If I can order every single fabric for the next year from Cravat if I want, I don't have to give any business to any of the other companies. So, you do have to do your due diligence. And I think that relationship rep sometimes forgets that. And so I think that's so good that you brought that up as one of the criteria when you're vetting a source is, a trade source is there a local rep for you? Is that local rep responsive? And as does that rep look at him or herself as a member of your team on your side?
Right. Yeah.
Good
it's
point.
Important.
Good point,
yeah,
Monique.
It's a point. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the main considerations you want to think about when you're building your repertoire list. Now, I think point 3 or strategy 3, which is really important, is also to what I like to call knowing your product and your customer. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit as we've been talking, but let me just break that down to you. So basically what that means is once you've done your research based on what, the strategies we've just talked about, and you're starting to build your repertoire of trade vendors or whatever type of vendors you're working with, it's important to start to understand and know your products. So researching and knowing what products these companies offer, and then also really being able to connect that with what your client needs are. So I'll give you an example. I had a project that I worked on about a year ago, a little over a year ago in New Jersey. And I went into the consultation, and basically, my client, she told me what she wanted. I looked around, I got to know her. And instantly, as I was listening, I was understanding and kind of like calculating in my brain, what her preferences were and what she didn't like. And she had a living room that she wanted to have like a very eclectic, but very traditional theme. And I started thinking, okay, in my mind, I'm thinking automatically, what vendors am I going to source through? And so that's what I mean by being able to know your product and connect and know your customer. Because here's what happened. As she's telling me what her preferences are, and I'm looking around her home and she's giving me the tour, we sat down afterwards and we were talking, and she said to me, she asked me, she said, okay, so do you understand what I want, and what's your plan, or what's your thoughts about how you're going to put this all together? And I said to her, and I looked at her with confidence, and I said, I know exactly already where I'm going to source all of your furniture and your accessories through. Oh. And the level of like comfort that came over her face it was amazing. And I could tell that at that moment, like, she really had confidence in my ability to deliver on what she needed. And, ever since then, like, our relationship just instantly was just great because I think she realized, okay, yeah, she knows what she's doing, and, she's going to bring me back what I want.
Right.
And for me, it was also a relief because when I went back to my office, I had already said, okay, this is the vendor that I'm going to, source for her sofa. This is the vendor that I'm going to, I already had it mapped out in my head.
Right.
And the only reason why I was able to do that was because I knew my product. I knew my product line. I knew my repertoire. I didn't have to go back and start searching and asking around. And, I knew what the client wanted, and I knew what was available to me and what I was going to use.
I love it. I love it. So what you're saying is, as you're there in the appointment, you're able to, in your mind, do the combination, the comparison of their particular style, the price point that you're expecting that's going to be comfortable for them, the delivery times that they're expressing they either need or don't need, and the level of service and samples that you're going to need or not need for this customer, this potential client. And so that, and I have to say, that's awesome, and I love it. And I think it does come with investing the time ahead of time, which is your number one message. If I'm not mistaken, Monique, your number one message is these are all the steps that are to be done, but they're to be done ahead of time, not in real time, not knee deep into the project, right?
Absolutely. That is the moral of the story. Yes. And this is something that, in my coaching program, I have a whole module on sourcing and selling. Right. Because this is something that should be built. This is something that should be a part of building your business, building the foundation of your business. Because again, to your point, like, you don't want to have to be doing all of this when you get a project, right? This is not a part of the the project management and doing, of the project. Yes, of course, you're going to be sourcing, but this homework and building this is something that is a part of your business and something that should be done ahead of time.
Yeah.
So
no, I love it. I think it's awesome. And it relates to everything. I mean, if we all think about, the thing is to understand that this is in of itself not rocket science, right? This is not a new idea, but it is possibly a new way to think of it. It's like we all do it. If you are going to head out to the shopping center, the mall, and you need a dress, or you need a suit, or you need a pair of shoes, based on the event and the level of the importance of that event to you, like where you're going to go look for the dress if you're the mother of the bride, as opposed to you're going to go to a wine tasting with your girlfriends on Saturday. It's completely different.
Right.
But
right.
Exactly. In your mind, okay, Neiman's is this, J. Crew or whatever is this, Gap is that, Target is this. Like and that's exactly what you're expressing, is that to have an intimate, thorough, researched knowledge of all of the sources available to you, so that when you are standing in front of the client, you can assess all of that, assimilate it, and go right back and start working, instead of walking around the mall in 25 million stores and going into Target looking for Mother of the Bride dress. Like, it's not there.
Exactly.
Go out, leave.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's what you're saying, right?
Right. You're spot on. And, it's really about, and I always tell designers and decorators that I work with that it's equivalent to the thought of basically knowing your product. It's like if you walked into a McDonald's, right? They wouldn't have the doors open with the menu up and they have to go and get the burger. They have to go get the fries. Right. They have to go figure out where they're going to get the fries from. Like, they wouldn't open the doors because their product is their food, right? Right. Well, furniture is our product and accessories is our product. So you got to know your product, and it has to be available, and you have to know where to get it from. So, and not, when someone comes into your door. I love it. Or when you get a new client. So it's the same concept. And it just makes your life easier, saves you a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of stress.
I love it. I have to say, I think you're the first person in almost 3 years that has ever addressed it from this very specific standpoint. And again, I say a lot of times when I hear something for the first time on the show, it doesn't mean that anybody that's ever been on the show hasn't done it this way, but I believe it's the first time that it's been expressed as an action item to do. And I love it because it does answer the question. A lot of designers that when I'm coaching them and they're newer in business, they say, well, I can only charge $75 an hour because it'll take me 4 hours to find that sofa. And the answer is know it ahead of time. Spend the hours on the off time and build it into the hours of your business. I love it.
Absolutely.
Smart. You're such a smart lady.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of trial and error. Like I've made a lot of mistakes and, have learned how to, create systems and processes to make my life and my job easier. So, it's just figuring out what works for you. And so, I like that this is very strategy based. Yes. That's typically how I do a lot of my coaching. I believe it's one thing to know what to do, but you also need to know how to do it. Absolutely. Which actually leads me to the fourth key strategy, which is building your sourcing repertoire. Okay. So now that you know what to do, how do you do that? How do you actually build this repertoire, and how do you really master knowing your products? Well, one of the things that I do is I actually have created a template, if you will, that allows you to plug in and put in and start to build your repertoire list of vendors. And there's some key things that it includes, like we talked about, like price points and putting your contact information in there for your reps, understanding what each vendor offers and categorizing it. So building that repertoire and going to High Point and, going to your local showrooms. If you're in New York City, go spend a day and go to the D&D building, D&D buildings and walk the floors and, go and fill out applications and set up accounts with those vendors that you want to work with. It takes time, but it's worth it in the end because you have a repertoire that you can go to, and that's your product. Like, that's the livelihood of our business. So you want to make sure that you're building that repertoire and you have it on hand and you master it and you know it like the back of your hand. So that if a client ever asks you, this is what I'm looking for, do you know where I could find that? The answer should always be yes.
Mm-hmm. And for real, yes.
For real, right? Yeah. Not,
I say yes no matter what, but I mean,
and next week, but really in
sure,
your mind,
I know how to do that.
Yeah. And it's funny because, and I know that this is a challenge, and I'll tell you why, because, I engage in a lot of Facebook groups and different, interior design communities and groups. And I see time and time again, so many questions and posts of, oh, here's this sofa, where can I find this? How
right.
much, and it's like, there's sometimes where there's some items that are hard to find, right? That's fine. But generally, there's a lot of questions about that. And it's like, if you have a repertoire of vendors, you should know, you should have seen a certain product, or you should know where to find it, or at least have a general idea of where you can find it.
Right.
So, this is something that it takes a little bit of time, but it's so worth it. And I promise, like, you do the legwork and it will truly change your business, and you'll be able to, one, be more profitable because you're not spending time, doing all this legwork per project or as the project comes up. And you feel smarter, you're more confident,
right.
you're
you
more
are
of a
smarter
resource to your clients, you just feel good, and you do better work. And I think that that's what we're all always striving for. So
this is a slam dunk. I love it. I absolutely love it. And I said it reminds me of any athlete, any level athlete, from T-ball all the way to Yankees. No one ever thinks that you just show up and play the game. That's like showing up for the consultation and then in the middle of it trying to figure out how to do 20 sit-ups so that you're in shape to field the thing, right? You have to do all the stuff in the background so that you're prepared to be lucky. You're prepared to have the answer at your fingertips because you've spent the time. And the only way to do stuff like this is to actually schedule it in, is my opinion, because otherwise it just becomes something that never happens, and you always end up doing it under the pressure of the project. So, and I also find, you tell me what you think, I usually encourage people for projects like this that feel like it's almost like the big picture payoff, but sometimes in a day-to-day in our world that's busy, that we have a hard time connecting the task with that big picture payoff, right? So it becomes like, what am I going to spend time doing this for? What am I going to take a whole day out of my life to go to the D&D building to walk around? But you have to, I feel like if you schedule it, so it's 1 hour every third day on the internet, or it's one day a month at the local design center, and take it 2 floors at a time. But in other words, to break it into a block or a chunk or something that is manageable, as opposed to today's the day I learned about all the trades in 22 floors.
It's impossible. Right?
It just becomes like, why bother?
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've been to that building so many times, and I don't think I've even gone in every single floor and every, but you're right. Make it fun, make it interactive, get with other designers, collaborate, and make it a part of building your business.
Right.
I think that's the important thing.
To work it in. That's what it is to schedule it in. It's like scheduling the workout in. Just do it.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. You're so smart. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that I can share this, and, it's four easy steps. So, hopefully that whoever's listening, they can take this information and they can apply it to their business, and, it will help.
Awesome. I love it. So, Monique, how do people find you if they're interested in learning more about the other things that you coach interior designers to do?
Yes. So they can go to my website, which is www.8stp.com, which stands for 8 Steps to Profitability. And I have, we've actually just launched several different additional programs depending on where you are as an interior designer or decorator. So if you're a student and you're an emerging designer, there's some key things that are important for you to get set up as far as your business foundation that I coach on, or you're what I like to call a transitioning designer. So, you may have a business up and running running and you've got some clients going under your belt, but you're, still maybe working a job and you're looking to make that transition, there's some key things that are important before you transition to have, set up in your business so you can hit the ground running.
I love it.
So program for that. And then I also work with seasoned designers. So, designers who've, are very well known and they're out there and, have been in business for some time, but, they're looking to, really kind of figure out, okay, what's the long-term vision of their business? So what's a long-term wealth strategy, or how they're going to maybe create an exit strategy to retire, things like that. So, or maybe rebrand. I have some clients that I work with and they're looking to rebrand their business and maybe get into a whole new niche within the industry. So depending on where you are, there's different things that are important to build as far as a foundation. So you can go there and you can learn, and you can also download the 8 Steps to Profitability. It's a free PDF, and it kind of takes you through all the things that are important, the modules that I coach on that are important to learn in mastering and creating a profitable interior design business.
I love it. It's so terrific. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us, Monique. And,
you're welcome.
By the time this airs, your little lady will be with you, but I'm going to wish you good, healthy delivery and easy delivery for the two of you, okay?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited. Thank you. And thanks for having me. This is always a pleasure talking with you. And you bring so much great additional insight to our conversation. So thanks again. And this is good. This is good stuff.
Thank you. I used the words game changer, didn't I? I believe that this conversation and these tips that Monique shared with us are game-changing ideas. And the reason is because I also believe that most of the actions that we take toward running a better business come from ideas that flip a switch in your mind. They come from ideas that cause us to think differently about something that we've done over and over again for weeks, months, or years. And then all of a sudden, the switch is flipped and we see it differently. We understand a new moment in it, right? And so in this conversation, let's reflect on it. How many times have you been in this situation where you have spent way more hours than you should sourcing for a particular item or several items for a project, right? And while you're doing it, you're down a rabbit hole, right? But then you find the item, you're excited, you love it, and your client loves it, and they purchase it. But because you're feeling guilty about it, you don't bill them for as many hours as it took to find that perfect product for them. All right. And then what else happens? Then this other voice comes in. So you've got this one voice that says, oh, no, don't bill them that many hours. And then you got this other voice that judges you and says, what kind of business person are you that you're not billing as many hours that you spent working? And so it's this hamster wheel thing. And it goes nowhere good because both sides of that voice in your head eat at your confidence, right? You know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a non-productive cycle, okay? And it happens especially when you're new. It can happen at any point in your career, but I think it happens especially when you're new because it's not just one unusual product that you're looking for. It could be everything. And it's just like Monique says, you need your repertoire. You need those go-to products, okay, so that you don't spend 6 hours sourcing a sofa, all right, and going down rabbit holes. You can do it in an hour, right? Okay, so what's the big aha? The big aha is to be prepared. It's to do the work ahead of time, and it's just like I used the sports analogy about practicing. Let's take a musical instrument analogy. I always go to sports, but you know what? There's a whole bunch of you out there that are probably like, what's with the sports, right? But think about this. Imagine you are a pianist, okay? You have a decent level of expertise in playing a piano, and you have an upcoming recital. Except the piece that you're going to perform, you really only done it a few times. So what happens? Do you go on stage and go through it and let's think to yourself, that wasn't so good. Let me do it again. And then you do it again. And then you do it again. And then you finally look at the audience and say, hey, bear with me a minute. I'm really a good piano player, but I just don't know this particular piece. And I'm just going to practice it here for a few hours while you wait. But no worry, I'm only going to charge you for the last hour when I'm really ready to perform it. Right? I mean, isn't that the exact same thing? Okay. So you would look at that pianist and say, go practice on your own time. And so that's the thing. That's the flip switch, the switch that's flipped here is instead of begrudging it taking 5 or 6 hours to find the right piece and knocking yourself down because you only build them for 2 or 1, but knocking yourself down because when you only spend an hour, you don't find the right piece and you don't feel like you can put your passion and your name behind what you found, right? The idea here, the new aha here, is to practice on your own time. And for example, if you've got a kid that's in soccer or piano or dance, I mean, you could do it for that hour. Right? If you take your kid every single week, I used to take my girls to batting cage practice and to pitching lessons, and I had to build that into my week. And that was before iPads, right? So you could build that right into your week, that's your time. And I have to say, last year, I wrote a column in the Window Fashion Vision magazine, and I described exactly this concept of intentionally educating yourself in your own time, not your client's time. And what I suggested in that was that you pick a topic or an area of expertise that relates to you and your business and assign it 1 month out of every year. So for instance, January might be motorization, February might be kitchen and bath resources, March might be every sofa that's between $1,000 and $3,000 wholesale, right? I mean, the idea is that I specifically suggested that you come up with a plan of 12 areas that you wanted to improve your business and you assign them each month. And then further, and here's the thing, it's not the calendar with January says, sofas. It's the calendar in January that says research sofas, and then the weekly calendar has it on Wednesdays from 9 o'clock to 10:30. Spend time researching sofas. You see, don't give me the 12 months. You got to put it all the way down into the weekly calendar. And the fact of the matter is you really only have to spend an hour and a half a week doing it. And like I said, do it while your kids are doing their thing or wherever. I mean, if you don't have kids, obviously, I'm sure there's other places, doctor's offices that you're waiting for yourself, whatever it is. But the point is that to be intentional about it, grab those times, grab those hours, block them in if you need to. And then when you are at your consultations or you are in your studio and you are getting ready to put a room together for somebody, you're not sitting there on stage practicing for 3 or 4 hours to get it right in the last hour. You sit down and you start to work because just like Monique says, you have your repertoire. Okay. All righty. And if you're interested in Window Fashion Vision magazine, it's an awesome magazine. It comes out every other month and it has lots of advice for window treatments. It also has lots of business columns in it. And just to up your game in the window treatment area. And don't forget that window treatments are high ticket items, lots of profit in window treatments, lots of technical. But if you learn it and you learn the lingo, you can really add some dollar bills, okay, to your pocket. So you can subscribe to that free in the trade. Go to subnow.com/Luann. subnow.com/Luann, and you can get your free subscription. Okay. Now, I wanted to say, don't forget, Monique has given us a very nice gift. She has available for her private coaching clients a video tutorial of her Source Like a Pro strategies. And she has said that if you want to have the video, she's giving it to you as a listener of the podcast. And you can get that by going to luannigara.com/video. luannniagara.com/source like a pro. luannniagara.com/source like a pro. Okay. Lastly, I know this is a lot, but I want to say to you that if this episode opened your eyeballs, there are other episodes that I briefly mentioned that are great companion episodes to this. And with all of them together, you're really going to feel like, okay, this is my thing now. Okay. So 354, Dina Holland of Honey and Fits. Number 357, Heather McManus of Collaborate to Win. Number 53 with Deb Barrett. She had a show specifically about how to make the most of your High Point Market visit. And then, of course, Monique's first appearance on the show, number 178, her 8 steps to running a profitable interior design business. All righty. Last thing. At the time I'm recording this, I have a couple of seats left for the High Point Market Power Talk Friday tour. If you're interested, head over to luannniagara.com and go to the events tab, and you'll find the Power Talk Friday thing right there. All right. You want to talk about game changer? Yeah, that's a game changer. That is about 8 hours of coaching with 5 coaches and under 10 or 12 of you guys. Seriously, no joke. Stand in my space and make that promise to you that if you decide to come to a Power Talk Friday tour, you will not regret it. All right? Do I have to ask you what your decision is that you'll make today? I think today, the way to decide to be excellent is to decide to calendar your efforts to be a pro at sourcing. What do you think? Why don't you decide to be excellent? Thanks so much. Have an excellent day. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at luannniagara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.